fly away 体中に広がるパノラマ顔を蹴られた地球が起こって火山を爆発させる溶けた氷の中に恐竜がいたら玉乗り飛行みたいねチャラヘチャラ何が起きても気分はヘロヘロカッパチャラヘチャラ胸がパチパチするほど騒ぐ元気がチャラヘチャラ頭から棒の方が夢詰め込めるチャラヘチャラ笑顔ウルトラ Z で今日もアイアイアイアイアイ
Hello, hello, everybody. Hello, we're back. And we are today streaming our fantasy show once more with as I'm actually also half asleep. I'm gonna need some coffee just now. I'm gonna have some breakfast and jump into the pages. Hey! Hello, Bless. Happy birthday again. How was your weekend? Yeah, that's all right. Don't worry about it. I hope you had a wonderful time. That's all that matters, you know. That's all that's important. That's all right. Enjoy your documentary. Oh my god, so hungry. I'm thirsty. I'm gonna go get some water. Be right back, peeps. One sec. forgot to do the commands. So, some reason, a little bit too much. Thank you. Or should I come in here and kind of talk on different mental health condition and experiences with a this lady described 50 minutes in the hospital on my mask because it's so true. Yep. Understandable. Okay. Gotta go put this stuff back. I'll be right back. And we can get to reading out loud because I've been reading in my head so far. Alright. So, back at it again. Do, 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 do. Alright, let's try from here. Again, he wondered if he hadn't damaged his eyesight somehow. As even in the nights at the mansion, he could still see things in the dark, so long as his eyes adapted to it. Still, he had never been in a room without any light source, so he hoped it was the room that made it impossible to see. He also realized how dependent he had become on holding the power in such a situation. The lack of his heightened senses made him feel as if he were missing a limb. No, can't see at all, but I know that the room is quite wide. When the guards come to bring us food, I'll be able to see it too. Did you notice anything else in this room that we could use to escape? Hawk asked as he tried to pull on his manacles to test his strength against them. Without his power, it might have been easier for him to break his wrists than to break free of them.
Not much easier. There is a grate in the corners, and I think I used as a sluice. But other than some plates and cups, there isn't anything else in the room. I tell you, worst of it is darkness, not being able to time of day. At least now I have some company once more.
The man began to sob.
How are we supposed to eat or drink if it's in our arms?
Asked Hawk.
Oh, I've only got my legs crossed in irons. But I believe they really don't want you to get free. I don't know how you'll eat. I don't think they're the type to spoon feed you. At least, you know that they want to keep you alive.
Panic spread into the man's voice once more.
It's going to be okay, Ethan,
Hawk said, trying to reassure him. We'll get us out of here. A rustling in the dark caught Hawk's attention. It was to his far left, and a groan sounded off in the darkness. Charles's voice said, "Oh,
where the devils am I?"
The voice was quiet and unsteady. Hawk was about to call out his guide's name, but the nagging sensation on the back of his head nudged him to try something else.
Are you alright, John?
Said Hawk, his voice loud and clear. Open. Quite beautiful hair you have there. Aye, thank you. Oh, yes, my ass is very thankful for it. Or said, the chair, I can tell you that. It is a night and day difference, especially because it's gotten to the point the other one was more like a Chinese torture device than actually a chair. So, yeah, it's very comfortable. It's too comfortable because I could just stay like this and just like, you know? So, there's that. But no, jokes aside, it's really, really good so far. No complaints on the quality of it. Nothing was damaged. The instructions were piss poor easy, honestly. When they sent that email initially, they had a part on the email saying you should have a look at our videos and guides to ensure that there's a smooth transition and you don't have any issues and so on and so forth. And I thought, must be really complicated. I mean, not even IKEA does that, you know? And then the chair arrives and there's like pictures, like it's humongous board and there's like humongous pictures step by step. And the only thing you could get wrong is blocked by a big red sign saying like, don't remove this until you've done that. I'm like, this is as easy, like it's written for people who eat crayons as a hobby. So that being said, you know, yeah, it was pretty good. It's fairly sturdy, really heavy. I didn't expect the box to be that big. Yeah, old chair's now been taken care of and new chair is in. Very happy. That's the experience now. I just gotten some wonderful news that our old business partners, the investors, are dragging their heels and closing the company, which now means that probably my old business partner and I are gonna have to come up with 900 quid to shut it down through the accountants before the government gets pissed off at us and starts sanctioning us, which is really wonderful. Kids, don't trust investors. Ever. That's the moral of the story. I probably have to sell my services on a corner one night, but other than that, it's been a wonderful day so far. How about yourself? How was the concert? Did your dad enjoy it too? And what did you do for your birthday yesterday? Alright. So, as I was saying, are you right, John? Said Hawk with his voice loud and clear, hoping that the man would know who was speaking, and he'd quickly catch on his ploy. Well, what? What did you say? Charles' voice is sounding a bit steadier now. Perhaps the man's injuries weren't as heavy as Hawk's. It's me, Jacob. Can you hear me, John? Hawk said, accentuating the names. Please catch on. Please catch on, please. My dad listened from the outside. He was a bit... Can understand. Beautiful things. Also, it was Father's Day the other day. So, 2 in 1 kind of thing. There was a pause that lay heavy in the darkness, and then after some rustling of chains, his friend said, I'm okay. Although I seem to have hit my head somehow, as I have quite a strong headache, replied Charles, but I feel all in one piece. How about you, Jacob? Something in his companion's voice made him understand that he had caught on to what Hawk was trying to do. I feel the same. Perhaps we're both bumped in the hand when we're trying to escape, replied Hawk, trying to weave the lie into shape. I believe market art is lying somewhere here in this room as well, he continued. I hope nothing hurt her, as I wring out the neck of any trying to hurt my sister. It was. We did Father's Day, my birthday, Mom's birthday, only one. Had 2 cakes. Haha. That's nice. What cakes do you guys have? With that, Hawk hoped to have laid enough of the line for Charles to catch on. The man had been much more adept than Hawk at this sort of thing, as he'd led a league. But Hawk opted his lack of expertise and decided wouldn't give the lie away. He didn't know why he felt so pressed to lie. After all, the man in their cell was very much in the same situation, And if what he said it was true, then Charles knew him. But he just couldn't shake the feeling from the back of his mind. Had he been wrong, he would have apologized to the man later. There's another man here from the League you might know, continued Hawk. His name is Ethan. I think Charles was speaking to his mother right before we left. You know him.
You hadn't told me that there were other people in the group before,
said Ethan with a questioning tone.
How many of you were there?
We were but a few. John here was one of the guards that came with us.
Ethan,
said Charles with a dry tone.
I do remember your mother saying something to Charles about you and your friend getting lost in the tunnels. Are you both here with us?
Is there someone else here with us? Huck heard Charles move around, likely searching for the pitch-black darkness for some figures.
Blasted, I can't see anything,
said Charles.
There's one more from your party, said Ethan. I think she's somewhere on your left, near the far wall. She, too, was unconscious. My other friend, Zach, was carried off by the guards, and I haven't seen him since.
Hawk released a sigh of relief as Charles seems to have slipped into the light quite comfortably. Steps started off in the distance, behind the door. They all went quiet. Hawk tried straining his ears. From the cadence and loudness of the steps, he could make out one person. Heavy, although it was hard to tell the sound rebounded and echoed down what must have been a long alleyway. Oh, cool. That's awesome. When the steps grew closer, a shadow broke the thin line of light from under the door, and then a loud clank came from the door itself. A set of keys chimed and were put into a hidden hole, and then the door opened outwards. Hawk strained his eyes to adjust to the sudden light. After battling his eyelids a few times, he could make out the outline of a very tall and bulky figure, although he couldn't quite see his face. Behind him, Hawk saw a long corridor lined with similar doors like the one in their cell. A large iron bar was placed in the middle of each, and a metal flap shaped like a keyhole lay at the bottom left of each door, likely hiding the only way to unlock the cell. Each door was reinforced with heavy wood and lined with metal. Nothing short of an explosion or the power itself could get us out, he thought to himself. He tried to reach out against his mind. Again inside his mind, but nothing came of it. Just a barren emptiness. It made him feel hollow. Then he turned quickly to look at Charles, Ethan, and the last person in the room. It was Elianda. His heart jumped with relief, as she seemed to be all in one piece and alert. He could see that she was also awake, though she hadn't spoken at all. They all looked at each other, and Hawk saw that Charles was puzzled when Ethan quickly moved his sight past him. His attention then quickly moved to the figure that was still standing in the doorway. From what he could tell, the man must have been almost 2 meters tall, very bulky. The figure stood out of the cell, and Hawk couldn't make out his face, or much of his features for that matter, as the light was behind the man. His senses focused on the man's breathing, deep and rugged, as if just standing with an effort. Then, slowly, the figure entered the cell. The door frame was just wide and tall enough to let him through, but his head almost brushed as he stepped in. There was something strange in his gait, something off. It looked as if the person was uncomfortable, not just with walking, but in his whole body. It reminded him a bit of the string puppets that he'd seen as a child at the Allen's Fair. The figure approached Ethan, and Hawk could see the man's eyes fill with fear as he tried to move away, his chains rattling on the stone floor. Then the stranger stopped, reached from behind to pull out a large metallic flask, pour the liquid inside of the tiny cup that had been lying at Ethan's feet. Afterwards, he took a loaf of bread and split it, placing a piece onto the floor.
Drink. Eat.
The figure said, his tone guttural, and somehow even more unnatural than how he walked. The voice sent shivers down Hawk's spine and reaffirmed the belief that there was something wrong with the stranger, something unnatural. Ethan rushed back to what he had been saying, lunging for the piece of bread and stuffing his mouth with it. Then, the figure moved to Hawk and crouched to his eye level. The first thing he noticed was the smell. It was a smell they encountered the tunnel, the waft of dead fish and water, albeit less intense than what the egg sacs had produced. Then, he saw that a hood enshrouded the figure's face. He couldn't tell how many features of the man was staring at him, except for the eyes that glinted at certain angles with a yellow light, almost as if he were watching a cat in the dark. The man reached for Hawk's wrists, and with a jiggle of the keys and clank, released them. However, his feet were left clasped in iron. Relief went through his body as he could finally lower his arms and massage his wrists. The burning pain and discomfort he hadn't even been aware of feeling up until then quickly subsiding. The figure poured the liquid in a cup, handed it to him, fingers like sausages and a hand like a clasp that made the tiny cup look like a teacup in comparison.
Drink,
he said, with the same tone. Hawk studied the cup, puzzled, and then he looked back into the dark hood.
Who are you?
He asked. He saw the eyes dart from him to the cup and back up again.
Drink,
the man said once more, this time pushing the cup closer to Hawk's mouth. He took the cup and for a second looked at the liquid therein. He tried smelling it, couldn't quite tell if anything had been placed inside there or if it were poisoned. He looked across the cell to see that Ethan had made quick work of the piece of bread and had greedily downed the contents of his own cup. Hawk then looked at Charles and Elianda, questioned them with his eyes, but before he could say anything else, the figure repeated, Drink! This time his tone was harsher. He brought the tin cup to his lips, sipped a small amount. The fresh water he tasted made his parched mouth instantly beg for more, and his body rejoiced. He couldn't taste anything out of the ordinary except for the sweetness of the water itself. It was as clear as spring water. He took a few deep sips from the cup and downed them, his throat thankful for the freshness. It felt to him like the best cup of water he'd ever had. Then he looked back at the figure, and he nodded at him, proceeded, handed him a piece of bread, and said, Eat. Hawk took the bread, and his stomach leapt in happiness at the first bite of the dry and stale loaf that had been handed to him. As soon as he was done eating, and drank the full measure, the man locked the manacles back around his wrist and moved on to Charles and them. The same scene that he had witnessed happen with them. Well, Hawk tried to study what he could of the man. He saw that he wore a patched leather cloak and torn trousers. He was barefoot, although the details were intricate to gather in the gloom of the room, with the light coming from the door barely illuminating it. As the figure turned towards the far wall to provide Ileanda with the same care he had given them, Hawk quickly tried to take in what he could of the cell proper. As Ethan had described, a small sluice grate lay in the corner close to the door, but other than that, the room was made of stonework, and patches of mold of varying degrees sizes were all over. His stomach begged for more food, but he pushed hunger away and studied his cellmate. The man was very thin and dirty. His long hair had become a muddied mess, and it stood at odd angles and shapes around his head. He had a sharp chin, framed by beard, stubble, and small eyes that were now intent on studying him and his companions. As he was doing so, dirty yellow fingernailed hands were picking at the matted and grim clothes he was wearing. Yet again, Hawk tried to access the power inside of it, and his mind was still very foggy. The headache surfaced again. I realized that every time he tried for the power, the sharp, knife-like pain would come back racing, punishing him. With the last clanking of metal, the figure stood back up, left the cell behind him, slamming the door shut. The sound resounded like thunder in Hawk's ears. When the steps were far away enough to be heard any longer, not to be heard any longer, he heard the noise of pouring liquid coming from Elianda's direction.
Crimson mire, he said with a harsh tone. They use the roots powder in the water. The bread seems fine, but the water is poisoned to muddle the mind. So that's what's been banging on my head like a drum, said Charles. Going to be hard staying in the cell without drinking. Yes, I've looked at the room, but I couldn't see anything that could get us out of here. You're right, Margaret,
said Hawk, accentuating the name. He didn't know how much of their previous conversation the dragon had heard.
Yes, I'm fine, my dear brother,
she replied, as she sighed with relief.
So, Ethan,
said Charles in a dry tone,
how long have you been here for?
what was your last memory before being brought to
The cell.
Hawk could hear his guide meddling with his chains. He laughed.
I haven't any recollection. As I said to Jacob here, I don't quite remember. Everything is foggy and my mind doesn't really go past a certain point. For some reason, I couldn't even remember why I came here, nor my mother's face.
The man said in a worried tone, voice breaking once more. Hawk had noticed that the man hadn't seemed to recognize Charles's voice or face once the door was open, but perhaps it was because the man had been drinking crimson mire for a while. Maybe I need to explain here something. Hawk. Much herbs. Okay, mystery. Shied away from Uncle Ass as much as he could. Sister loved all stuff, and she had been them make any rose shine even in the worst of circles.
Memory loss is often common with extended exposure to the fire, said Charles, exhaling
as more noise could be heard coming from his direction.
What are you doing? Asked Ethan. If they hear you, they'll come back.
Replied Charles in a mute tone.
Well, the man didn't seem to be all there, so I don't think
we'll need to worry about him coming back anytime soon.
Also, there were no guards posted anywhere in the hallway. The whole place just seems to have been recently repossessed.
He paused as he managed to get off the ground and tentatively moved his hands over the chains, looking for weakness in the links.
This would be much easier if I had a light,
he said roughly.
I think I can get out of mine. I don't have much strength.
Oh, no, this is the end.
I think I can get out of mine. I don't have much strength left in me. I mean, most of it when I was trying to get away from the monsters, says Leander in a dark tone.
Hawk remembered the incredible flame work he'd seen the Draken use to stem the flow of the monsters and to keep them at bay. Paired with her lightning reflexes and extraordinary strength, they had managed to keep the stem from overflooding them. Had it not been for her, he knew he wouldn't have been able to stop the bulk of the Ziza from killing their group and rushing to the surface to lay destruction to the city. He wondered if her power took a steep toll such as his did, and wanted to ask and know more about it, but mindful that they weren't alone, held his tongue. Said Charles.
Not a problem. I've got just a trick for this. The guards didn't search me proper.
The sound of bone snapping quickly broke the silence that followed. Hawk heard the man groan in pain and the sound of a manacle being removed and dropped to the floor.
Lucky thing, I've broken my thumbs more times than I like to count, he said, his voice still painful. That sounded painful, said Hawk with a grimace. You get used to it. It's a nifty tool to have in your box when you need to get out of irons. I can teach it to you if you ever interested. Honestly, the painful part is putting it back in the right place. And with that, there was another groaning of bone and ligaments in the dark, and a curse coming from Charles. See, bright as rain. Hawk didn't mention anything about the fact that it was pitch black, nor that it didn't sound pleasant. He was, however, very excited, despite the mind fog that was once more laying heavily on his mind, as his hope was rekindled once more. Alright, so we finished here. Let me check general chat. See. Oh, somebody at the door. Be right back. Okay, and here we are. Thanks for the birthday wishes. A yes hair from fiance. My sister's family got me a affirmation poster and frame of chocolates. And then my mom got me the most perfect t-shirt for me. Family's turning it. First says emotionally exhausted and ready for a snack. That's awesome. Affirmations for a happy life. Oh, there it is. Asking for help makes me stronger. It's okay to be proud of me. Make the world better by being in it. I don't owe anyone perfection. I will rest. I won't ever give up. I'm worthy of love just as I am, and it doesn't get easier, but I get stronger. That's nice. That's very nice. Good affirmations. Lovely hair. Love the hair as well. All time slutty brownies. Oh wow, that they sound delicious. They do sound delicious. Alright. Back at it again. This is a supermodel. Hair whip. If I do that, my neck is going to just fall off. Yeah. Hey, Minon. Bonjour, ça va? Right, so let's continue here. Comment ça va, mon ami? How's your day? Qu'est-ce que tu fais aujourd'hui? Have you had any thigh pain with this heat yet? No pain whatsoever. That's the best thing. No pain at all.
It's a humongous difference with the fat. But again, the other chair, you know, I wasn't joking. The pillow on the back, on my lower back, you know, my butt touching, it just had basically just gone all together. So spending 5 minutes was metal. You know, like it was just metal, and the frame underneath was not ergonomic in any shape or form. So it doesn't take much to make it better. But it does feel extremely comfortable and extremely sturdy at the moment. So I'm extremely happy about that. The posture thing on the posture side, I'm still trying to get used to this, but it's getting there. C'est toi, j'ai des déviations. Moi, j'écris parce que je suis en comment tu dis writer, écriteur. Donc j'écris mon livre fantasy. 3 weeks of Jasmine Payne and Pavlos forgot the secret labs. It was just that out of line. Oh yeah, you know the funny thing is, I realized that when I was in the old chair sometimes, and I think it was because I was compensating because like one side had gone like messed up over the other. Like I wasn't at like a S shape. Like most of the time I was staying in an S shape. And like I said in Discord, what's likely happened is that I've had for the past year, um, like these pains in my lower back where I can't really stay lying flat with my back for a long time because otherwise my lower back is kind of like just clamps up and it's really, really painful. I have no doubt that the freaking chair didn't help at all. So, and now, yesterday, and the day before yesterday, after I got up off the chair, I could feel like my hip was trying to readjust, like I wasn't 100%. But it's normal, it's posture, and I'm all like crooked as well. I have like a warped face, warped everything. So, and that's because of like childbirth trauma and other issues. So, because of that, whenever anything goes out of place, and even a little bit, like my body compensates. But I have a really good osteopath, so she is incredible and she helps me stay sane. Écrivain, oui, bien sûr. Merci. I have that, but my chair hasn't fixed it. But ease as well. I'm sitting in it. Yeah. What helps me is yoga. Like whenever I do manage to do yoga, but when I say yoga, like my exercises before I do exercising, I have like 5 to 10 minutes of yoga stretches, which help me get limber and all that. That just if I do that, it helps a lot. It helps my knee. It helps everything. I wish I could do it, but unfortunately, I've been sick now 3 weeks, and it still has not gone away. I'm afraid that if right now, like today, I go and exercise, I'm just gonna make my body worse because, as you know, exercising is a very much a shock to your body, so it can rebuild itself, and it's gonna lower my immune system, and I'm just gonna get sick again for another 2 weeks. So I'm just like staying off it, and me, I'm just gonna be fat. Guess I look like a turtle if I turn on my back and my in-band. Yep, me too. Yeah. Yeah, like for me the pain is so hard as well. You know, like it will wake me up. Now with the osteopath it helped me a lot, but at the beginning it was so bad that if I'd fall asleep, like I was exhausted, I'd fall asleep, you know, lying down straight. And then the pain will wake me up and then I'd have to like try and move, but everything was so blocked. Like it was extremely painful and I have to like use my arm to move my leg and it would do like a click noise and then it would just be better afterwards. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I have very much that pain, but it's usually, as I said, yoga stretches help immensely with that. Like I won't have it for a week or two if I manage to exercise even once that week and do my yoga stretching properly. You also realize that what are the common side effects of the crimson fire? Fast talk. Well, for one, this splitting headache. Charles. And they also muddles the mind, so it gets harder to think. It's a fairly common mood. Technology growth here, the region of my still solar to smaller doses over the years, but and reckon right about now here and your wishing could pop off head. Time that that's where the migraine came from. Up. So Hawk. That's one issue. Now to worry about a concussion. One sec. I have to roll, like, you know, when you lay on top of a hill and roll down parallel to the bottom. Yeah, fairly. Yeah, I understand. I do that to get out of bed and catch myself on the side of the bed, like hit the floor first. Like a fucking Olympics gymnastic move. Superman just to dive in. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, for me, it's like that. It blocks me entirely. So I have to manage to, like, I have to use the rest of my body to move up the legs to unlock the position. It feels like one of those chairs that kind of has like a lock, and then you have to push a spot, then it unlocks again and goes clack, and then you can bend it again. So yeah, I understand. I heard that there are also other side effects to those who have ability. What the hell? Said Alianda. And accentuating. And Hawk also understood. Let's do this. Someone is more sensitive to spiritual craft, and that's meant to stifle and take away power, so long as the person keeps taking the fire. With a sigh of is it permanent? Talk. Worry rising in his voice. All of the effect disappear within a day or a few hours, depending on the potency of the mire used. A sigh of relief. Hawk realized that he hadn't lost the use of power, and that and much like hunger, his body craved, yearned to feel the strength and effect of it surging through him once more. Oh, value! Thank you so much for that. Thank you for that follow. I hope you're having a wonderful day. There we go. That scared me for a second. All right, let's reread this part. I think it's a bit too convoluted. But let's reread. See, he said, painting right as rain. Hawk didn't mention anything about the fact that it was pitch black, nor that it didn't sound pleasant. He was, however, very excited despite the mind fog. It was once more lying heavily on him, as his hope was rekindled once more. Didn't I just say once more? Yeah, once more. So rekindle, kind of redundant to say once more. What are the common side effects of Crimson Mire? Asked Hawk. Well, for one, it's splitty headaches, Charles said. But and it also muddles the mind, so it gets harder to think. It's a fairly common allergy growth here in the region. I've managed to build up a tolerance to smaller doses over the years. But I reckon right about now, you're wishing you could lop off your head every time you use it. But that's what the migraine came from. Hawk, at least I don't have to worry about a concussion. Use the style. I heard that there were also other side effects to those who have ability. Said Elianda. Someone is more sensitive to the spiritual witchcraft side. It means it's meant to stifle and take away the power, so long as the person keeps taking the mire. Is it permanent? Asked Hawk, worry rising in his voice. All the effects disappear within a day or a few hours, depending on the potency of the mire used. With a sigh of relief, Hawk realized that he hadn't lost the use of the power, and much like his hunger, his body yearned to feel more the strength and fats of it surging through him once more. For now, it could only focus on keeping his head from thumping. As the reinvigorated effect of the poison were now coursing through. He cursed himself for not having thought. For not having thought about Ace. For having given in to his body's cravings. Body's thirst. Say. Yeah. But what was done, done could be undone. Only took time. Fret not, said Charles once more. Said Charles. And once more he heard the clanking of irons. Floor. This time. Oh, intoxication. Thank you so much. Hey, buddy. How are you? Welcome back. Thank you so much. Ah, you were playing Expedition 33. How you enjoyed that? Thank you so much for that raid. Welcome back. How's your Final Fantasy fiction going? Are you still writing? Eh? That's amazing, yeah. Yeah, I've played up until just the beginning of Act 2 myself, so no spoilers, please. But yeah, I really enjoy it. But no, so Charles and Monster and cranking on the floor. This time. Last time, no broken bones had been heard. And the manacles had been opened. No, this is a bit confusing. Yeah, no worries. Working on it slowly. Put together the essentials as tasks you need to complete to be able to leave the tree. I'm gonna go throw in some food, BRB. Alright, enjoy. What are you having for food? Find no broken bones can be heard. I can also be open normally. They really should have shot me. Better. Man said, a hint of a smile in his voice. Charles then proceeded to help to unlock Alianda and unlock. Actually, let's go. The rest of the in the cell. Once came Ethan. He went about it tentatively in the dark. Used their voices pinpoint location of each of them. Tentative. Ah, poutine. Oh, wow, that's nice. Are you from Canada? I've never had poutine. I know we have here in Edinburgh, we have place that's like a pub that does poutine. Nice, nice. So how's the writing going as well? Have you written anything? Pinpoint, not pinpoint. Once it came to Ethan, man, shied away. Better. How do you do? Can't. I don't know what they'll do to us. His rasping voice, full of fear. So quiet, trying to attract the attention of the guard. Restaurant poutine is usually bad because of cheese curds, but we try to find cheese. Nothing like it. I think that should cover in gravy. Ooh, okay, fair enough. I have to get my last short story posted to YouTube. Just finished the video, but I haven't had time to post it. 59-minute long story, longest one I've written. That's cool. That's amazing. Is it still all in the Final Fantasy short story kind of area? Do you write any fiction that's yours, that's original as well, or do you just base it off of other franchise or lore? Like, you would think the same of Nash if it was only cheese curds. Yeah, I've never tried cheese curds myself, so I wouldn't know. I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to fries, or just like the salt, pepper, and spices. I'll put sometimes ketchup, mayo, rarely. So, funny enough, my favorite is to put either lime or lemon. But I'm Mediterranean, so that's where it comes from. Not stuff that's like cheese or curds or anything heavy, because coming from the Mediterranean, it's not very much our culture. So for me, putting onto fries, which is something already fairly, rich and heavy, heavier, richer stuff, it's quite filling. And for us, fries, well, French fries, in general, are a side, not a main dish. Even though here in the UK, chippies, they'll just put cheddar, you can put salt, they'll put vinegar on it, they'll put anything on it, so. No, it's a free open sci-fi. Ah, that's cool. What's the synopsis for it? I've done some sci-fi short stories as well. Yeah. One was when I was much younger. I think I was 11 or 12, and another one just recently because I had someone come to me with the idea that we could make a video game and ask me to kind of preface the intro to the video game, and we went into the lore a little bit, and then I just jotted down something. But my main concern is finishing the book, so I'm at the moment around 450 actual pages that would be put into like a hardcover. So I'm about almost halfway there. I still got halfway to go. But slowly getting there, slowly. Can't get out of here. You know what they'll do. Rasping boys will go quiet. Quiet. Try not to attract. Hard. Friend, Jesus Christ. I'm still getting used to this keyboard for typing. It's so responsive. I was used to, like, I'm trying to get used to that sweet spot where it's pushed enough and not too much. And also, yeah, it's just strange. It's gonna take some time. Look, friend. Wait. Don't get out of here. You'll will all end up dead. Or worse. Or later. Charles said, and calm down. I understand you're afraid. But if you don't do this, you will die. So, will you come with us, or would you rather stay here and rot? Space trucker in a faster than light travel, and he goes into cryosleep for years as time his ship's falling apart, so he invests into new technology and develops into Stargate technology. Okay. Becomes extremely wealthy, but he's addicted to gaining money and seeing graphs, so he sleeps for longer and longer until he outlives humanity. Oh, that's interesting. That's a pretty good premise. There is something, kind of the idea of like outgrowing, and I mean, you know, FTL and Sword and FTL and all this stuff is a cornerstone of sci-fi. So depending that of the kind of technology you're using is quite important. Hyperion does that a little bit, where there's a short story in Hyperion where they were explaining, like, you know, you go and by the time you come back, you know, the time that passes, the people would be older. And there was a love story in Hyperion about it too. It's quite interesting. I've always been fascinated for it. Only 1,000 years, only 10,000 years, only, yeah, oops, too far. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah, it seems like a good idea. So that's going to be a short story. The silence filled the room once more, and Hawk took the upward edge closer to the door, passing his hands over the grooves and grain of the wood nails that held it. I say metal because nails sounds like it's just a plank, and metal that held it in place. That's complete. Already wrote it. Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying it's really good. I'm a silver girly at heart. 1.2 extra racial liner. Reds are my usual, which 2.0. Okay, I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. It sounds very good, yeah. What's next then? Do you have an idea what you're gonna write next? Are you planning on maybe writing something a bit longer and try and get published it? Or you just write for as a hobby? Silence through the room once more and took the opportunity to edge closer to passing his hands over the grooves and grain of the metal, held it in place. He heard steps behind him, and felt Alianda approach. Different switch colors and their caps are different actuation distances and force. Oh shit! I thought you were talking about like care stuff for a second. I just kind of came out of nowhere. Sorry. Silver is a light, speedy press. Red is a deeper light press. Ah, we're talking about the typing. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Pilot you don't have color means it can be all colors. Yes. 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 I enjoy it. I do like the idea of being able to just glide across the keyboard now and being able to write and do things. It's just a matter of getting used to it because I mean I've used clicky and mechanical like deep press keyboards for ever, as far as I could remember. Whereas as I got keyboards that were kind of gaming oriented, so that's been a while. So going to the idea of just gliding through a keyboard is whew. I was 1.5 at the moment. Funny enough, I've realized because of it, while I'm gaming, I actually am heavy on the A. So basically, when I'm staying, I use WASD like to move for the Division 2. I realize that I'm staying more like that when I'm at rest. So sometimes I would see my characters just like going forward and then slowly going like. So I'm thinking like either I can retrain my hand to not be just leaning on the left, or then I just put the actuation for the A a little bit lower so that I have to press harder. Hey Tin, how are you, buddy? Yeah. Air the steps behind him and then filter down the approach. Can you feel your power at all? He asked in a whispered breath. Oh. Shook his head, but then realized that dark and said, I can't at all. Every time I try, headache just stabs as my temples. He whispered back, worry. I still have my strength, and our eyes can be better the dark than those of your kin. And I legit think a truck drove into my bedroom and ran over me reverse, and then ran over me again repeatedly till I was comatose and I'm injured but alive. So sorry I missed you guys last night. Ah, it's alright. I understand how it feels. I completely understand. I felt like that for 2 weeks. So hoping you're feeling a bit better now. Right. Have enough strength and eyes and see in the dark. Well, oh. Said. He asked her. He paused and then also reached for the door, tentatively searching for a way out. If I were to use the remainder of my power, you'll carry me on here. Magic. Our strength is different. Oh, Jesus Christ. Type, please. Well, different. Yours. You don't have the elders light side of us. We use it takes a lot of time and it takes preparation for our bodies able to even achieve a slither of what I used up and tunnels. If I am careful, might even kill me. All right, so liver. Price type correctly. All right. That's where the tired. You didn't get much sleep. Yeah. Apparently, it's a common thing for us. We don't all get much sleep, unfortunately. I felt like I had 12 kissing knives going straight out through the water my feet, right up to my legs. Oh. I'm sorry to hear that. Alright, let's see. Let's reread. See, he said, panting right as rain. Hawk didn't mention anything about the fact that it was pitch dark. Not that it didn't sound pleasant. He was, however, very excited despite the mindful that was once more lying heavily on him as his hope was rekindled. What are the common side effects of the Crimson Mire? Christ. Ass talk. Aww, DTG Hal, thank you so much for that follow. I appreciate it. How you doing? Thank you. Ass talk. Well, for one, this splitting headache, Charles said, it also muddles the mind. It gets darker, harder to think. Fairly common algae growth here in the region. I managed to build up a tolerance to smaller doses over the years. I reckon right about now you're wishing you could pop off your head every time you use it. That's where the migraine came from, thought Hawk. At least I don't have to worry about a concussion. Heard that there were also other side effects to those who have abilities, said Eliana. Someone is more sensitive to the spiritual witchcraft side, spiritual world. I don't want to sound too on the nose here because I want it to, like, kind of her hinting that it could affect Hawk's power without saying it out loud because there's somebody in the room. So I'm sensitive to the spiritual world. It's meant to stifle and take away the power as long as a person keeps taking the mire. There's a permanent ass Hawk roaring rising in his voice. All the side effects appear within a day or a few hours depending on the potency of the mire used. With a sigh of relief, Hawk realized that he hadn't lost the power, and much like his hunger, his body yearned to feel the strength and effects of it surging through him once more. Now, break here, he could only focus on keeping his head from thumping as he reinvigorated the effects of the poison were not coursing through him. He cursed himself for having given into his body's thirst, but what was done could be undone. It only took time. Fret not, said Charles. And once more he heard the clanking of irons hitting the floor. This time, no broken bones had been heard.
The manacles had been opened normally. They really should have checked me better, the man said, with a hint of a smile in his voice. Charles then proceeded to unlock the rest of the people in the cell. He went about it tentatively in the dark and used their voices to pinpoint the location of each of them. Once he came to Ethan, the man shied away in terror. What are you doing? We can't get out of here. You don't know what it'll do to us. His rasping voice, full of fear, was still quiet, trying not to attract the attention of the guard. Look, friend, if we don't get out of here, we'll end up all dead, or worse, sooner or later, said Charles in a calm tone. Understand you're afraid, but if you don't do this, you will die. So, will you come with us, or would you rather stay here and rot? The silence filled the room once more. Knock took the opportunity to edge closer to the door, passing his head over the grooves and the grain, the wood and metal that held it in place. He heard steps behind him and then felt Liliana approach. Can you feel the power at all? He asked in a whispered breath. Hawk shook his head, then realized that it was pitch dark and said, Can't at all. Every time I try, the headache just stabs temples. He whispered back, Don't worry, I still have some of my strength, and our eyes can see better in the dark than those of your kin, she said. Will you be able to get us out of here? He asked her. She paused, and then also reached for the door, tentatively searching for a way out. If I were to use the remainder of my magic, you'll have to carry me conscious out of here. Our strength is different from yours. We don't have the Elder's light inside of us. It takes a lot of preparations to the bodies to be able to achieve even a sliver of what I used in the tunnels. If I am not careful, it might even kill me.
Alright, not too bad. UTG Hollis says, a journey far through the digital realms to be here, and now that I am, my soul is at peace. How does your quest fare, kind bard? I love that. My quest fares fairly well. It goes smoothly. I've been building this story for a while now. I'm almost halfway through the book, and yeah. I'm at the moment at a slower paced chapter, one that I hope will not be too tedious. I tend to try and write at a pace that is more akin to thriller, more so than just fantasy, so I intertwine fantasy, horror, thriller, and comedy in between. But there are some times where I have to slow down a little bit just because of where the story goes. So at the moment, part of our main group has been captured, and they're in this kind of like a makeshift prison. Some monsters have captured them, and they're underground under a city in a set of networking tunnels that have been hidden from public for a long time. So they just woke up in pitch black darkness, and yeah. They're trying to get out of there. There's also a person that they don't know in the room that they're trying to convince to get out with them. And yeah, I have no idea where the story is going, and as I'm writing it, it comes out. So I kind of know where I want the chapter to go, like what the direction is. But it's very much, as I'm writing, my brain is just, the muse is going. Very noble scribe, what tale dost thou weave today? What legends are being born from thy quill? I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to go full Shakespearean on you. I've not been taught into theatre, so I will not speak like that because I probably very likely make a fool of myself, and I'm not a jester. But basically, the synopsis of this book is the veil between the world where the story takes form, which is Natharia, and hell is wearing thin, and the zeniths of hell are about to break through, and the apocalypse is coming, and the only thing standing between the end of the world and its salvation is a child. Who Hawk, this book, who's in this room right here. So yeah. There you go. That's the synopsis. It's high fantasy. Kind of almost semi, a little bit, like if we have to put a name to it, it's more towards, like, not quite steampunkish, but you know, we're at the age where gunpowder is about to be discovered and all sorts of things. And demons are not yet roaming freely the earth, but there's, you know, like bursts of like monsters coming through over time. Has been happening for a while now. It's been very covert up until now. And yeah, so it's been a struggle. How our characters landed here is basically they saved somebody from being executed, publicly executed. Because of that, they had to go underground into this network, a secret network, and which is under a city. They're in a city called Alabaster, and the city, I have a reference, is based on Mont Saint-Michel, which is in France, is an island city, and basically it's like that, but 100 times bigger, with the walls much bigger. And inside the island, underneath, there's a network of tunnels and sewers that has been carved for a purpose which has not been said yet. And our group was saved by the leader of the League of Thieves and Beggars, and they asked for safe passage because the city is high alert. Try and find our group. They ask for safe passage through the tunnels to get to where they need to get to on the other side of the city, but there is something hunting the people in the dark in the tunnels, and they have encountered that something and have been captured by such. Here they are in the cell. That's the story so far. 16 chapters try to... There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more things have happened, but yeah. This is where we are right now. It's kind of hard to tie down epic fantasy into a few words, but that's, I hope, clear enough to give you guys an idea where we are and what we're doing and why. Names have not been decided yet. Like the power, yeah, the light has is kind of like at the moment just placeholders for the strength, the magics behind things. Because there's different magic systems within the world, and depending on the kin, so humankind can't use it, but some of them kind of use wards in a way, and specific magic that is powered by certain things, but it's a lost art. The Draken, which are dragon folk, dragonkin, of which Elian is one, is another kind of magic. There's other races on the planet, but they've kind of been covered and staying away from humanity for quite a long time because they knew that this day will come again, the apocalypse would come, and so they were getting ready for it. So yeah, here we are. Anyway, where's the house and strength? Your eyes can see better in the dark. Careful. By the gods, what a delight. I too am a teller of tales, a writer of adventures set in realms far and wide. So what is your latest work? What kind of work do you do? I'm not careful, it might even kill me. A few moments pass, and then more irons plant cell as Ethan was set free. Walk. Charles approached them and said, right, do you think it could get that loose Right. So now, actually, let's say, let's see what we have here with Hawk and let you and she whispered something to man that Hawk couldn't hear. Then he heard Ethan approach and went towards him. Both back up, worried that that he might overhear something. Present serve as a world builder for a new card game in the making, breathing while life into lands unknown and forging lore echo through the ages. I too am penning a tome of high adventure, nearly 5,000 words deep in the tale. Alas, I find myself ensnared in swarms of writer's doubt with a path forward grows dim. Ah, that's fair enough. What kind of TCG or just a card game in general? I am very well versed with some of those systems, especially Magic the Gathering. Getting a tome high, so high fantasy, nearly 5,000 words deep. That's nice. Nice. Calculate 1,000. Oh, sorry, 50,000. Sorry, 50,000 divided by 50 would about 200 pages, or less printed. That's good. MTG and D&D. Oh, that's nice. Good. Are you guys publishing it self-published, or is it like for a company that you're writing? I have a little bit of experience of writing stuff for others. This is quite because it's, I don't know, like for me writing is very much just writing. I just love writing. I can just put myself in anything, and for some reason my brain just decides to follow through most of the time. What are you stuck on writing wise? What's not part of that section? Ah, fair enough. What are you stuck on at the moment? What's the writers out based on? Is it because you don't know where to take the story? Is it a block? Is it something? Walking land and running through, she whispers something to the man, and the cock can hear, then hear Ethan approach towards them. He might overhear something. Before he could reach, heard a loud screeching. Is it? Oh, it's like that. Noise. A loud screeching noise of metal being bent. A loud noise. Like metal being bent. And Charles, thank you kindly for that. As he moved Margaret. And then proceed. The problem is they're in the dark. Only Leanda can, which is Margaret here, can see stuff in the dark, and the others are going by touchy-feely kind of situation. And so I'm gonna have to explain the story, like what's happening. I know well the tale I wish to tell, yet the words elude me, refusing to take shape in a manner satisfies the will of my spirit. I know what I seek to craft, for the shape takes defies the desires of my will. Ha! Understandable. Sometimes stepping away and writing something else is good, because it can help you with that. I know not what your struggle is specifically, right? But something, and I don't know also your style of writing, because there's different styles of writing. If I don't know if you like to like step in like what I'm doing right now, which is I'm just sitting here, my mind tells me what to write and I write it. Or if you are somebody who has to have pointers, first I'm going to do that, and then that, and then that, and then that, and then that. You know, the two kinds, and there's a mix in between of these kinds of writers. But also one thing that could happen to help is set up a small outline of what you're about to write. Thus, I turn my gaze to the forging of lore in the card game, seeking new fire from muse amidst the creation of legends anew. Yeah, you know that it's funny because you can really get motivated by writing more, reading more, watching movies, and take just inspiration from everyday life. If it's an idea that you're stuck with, that's one thing. But if you can't get the words on paper, like I was trying to say, is what might help is that I found personally is set small bullet points of trying to understand what you want to take the story through, or let's say for the next 20 pages or 30 pages, whatever, for the chapter. And then after you set those bullet points, like even if they come hard, like okay, the scene opens in a cell. Okay, so first is going to be my character struggling with being thinks they're blind, they have a gash on their head, they have a headache, you know, so they're injured. Okay, cool. What next? So the scene can be like this. So maybe I need to hit this other checkpoint, which is, I don't know, there's another person in the room, right? So slowly, just a little bit, put like generic bullet points, not minute to the point of like first this person says and then that, because that's writing the book, but enough of a generic thing that you can have some semblance of an outline for the chapter, and then step away from it, and then let that sink in your head, and let your subconscious and your muse take hold of it for a while, and then come back when you feel like you've sit on it. Because again, it's very personal. Artists think differently, work differently on this kind of things, but you know, you could just, because for me, like, my mind just keeps going back at the story, whether I want it or not. So, oh, we could do that. Oh, we could do this. Oh, we could do. So when you let it sit for a while, even if it's just a week or two or whatever, then you could come back with more steps into it, and then sit down. You'll find you have the thing. The other thing that really helps is just writing. And I've kind of told this because we have a writers group, funny enough. Right, yes. I know it just sounds stupid. We have a writers group, so it's a small writers group here where I have other two writers, and we meet and we talk about things. And one of the things I kind of said to another one of the writers is, watch the movie Finding Forrest. I think it's Finding Forrest. Finding Forrest. Forrester with Sean Connery. So Finding Forrester, and there's a scene in this where just this young author that is very talented, that's being kind of coached through writing by this seasoned author who is Sean Connery. And there's a scene where he just sits at a table and just writes. The guy just says, just write. And the guy's like, what the fuck do you mean? I can't write. Like, what do you want me to? No, just write. Just take your pen and just write. What about what? Just write. And that's the most useful tool I've found for myself. Everybody works differently, but for me, it's just I just sit at a piece of paper and just start blabbering. Like, it's kind of like for me, I just envision my brain connecting straight to the keyboard, you know, and I'm just writing. It might sound gibberish, it might sound god awful, slow, just whatever. There's days where I just hate what I'm writing entirely, step by step, word by word, but I'm just sitting here and I'm just, okay, so this happens and then that, okay, cool. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm just writing for the sake of writing. It could just be, you know, anything that has to do with the current scene, but I'm just writing, and then slowly it's like you're brute forcing it and just slowly just opens up. So if you use a series of these kind of things, maybe it might work for you, maybe it might not, maybe you need something else. But I found that to be quite useful for me. So for example, this chapter, I didn't really have very clear idea what I wanted to do. This chapter came out of nowhere because the story kind of nudged me in this direction, and split the groups into different parts. So I had to create this chapter out of nowhere. There was no idea of it, and initially I started with the bullet points, kind of to give myself at least a direction, just to know, okay, so what the fuck do I do? And it was just brainstorming, literally. It was just me staring at a blank page and brainstorming what could happen. But it's not set in stone. I won't use it as a set in stone situation. I won't be like, this has to happen, because it's kind of spur of the moment, right? So I'm just generic what could happen in this chapter, and then I let that sit. You know, I let that sit for a couple of days, and then I came back to it, and I'm like, okay, let's start writing. And it was so slow at the beginning, especially because I'm so slow at writing stuff that's not, to me, interesting, right? And so for me, this part seemed a little bit like it's necessary, but it's not as interesting as the previous chapters end and what's happening right now in the chapter where I've gotten to. It was so slow and sluggish, and it felt like pulling out teeth. But I just wrote. It didn't matter. I didn't even focus too much on rereading. I just focused on writing. And there you go. And now I'm quite a few pages. Like, this is 16 pages of Word, which doesn't really translate. This is 5,907. So 5,907 with an average of 250 pages per 250 words per page would be about 23 pages. So this chapter, let's say 24 pages of this chapter, almost. So, you know, start from being stuck to managing. Again, Finding Forrester, good movie to watch for an aspiring writer, and also a very, very much a love letter to, I think, writing in general. It's a good drama. It's got a good bit of things, and of course, it's freaking Sean Connery. Anyway, yeah. So hopefully, some of that advice will stick. Some of that advice might help you. If not, just read a lot, watch movies, jolt that thing. You know, that's sometimes what happens. Is one of the things that I think even Lee Child and Stephen King were saying is like they'll find inspiration in anything that happens every day. Yep, handbrake. Ready for that, Margaret? And as he moved. Actually, I don't want to say that, because if I say that, then Ethan could become suspicious. Oh, Ellie the Wolfie, thank you so much for that. Thank you. Oh, merci beaucoup, tu parles français aussi? Thank you. Bonjour. Hello. Thank you so much for that. Tu es française aussi, or? I'm not French. I'm definitely not. Before he could reach, he heard a loud screeching noise, the metal being bent. Reach. man here. He turned around. Right. I'd Charles with effort. I think I can use this grate here to leverage the door open from the hinges, but I'll need some strength behind it. Oh. So, thank you so much for that. What have you been reading and writing? Qu'est-ce que tu étais en train de lire et écrire aussi aujourd'hui? Right. Signed it. I think I can use this grate here to leverage the door open from the hinges while I need to stream behind it. We're creating an OC with a friend. Alright. What is OC? BTG Holla. The gates swing wide as a host of heroes enters a realm. Welcome, raiders. Lay down your burdens, for you've found safe haven. Let tales be told, laughter shared, and glory won anew. Original character. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Do you tell me more? What kind of original character were you crafting? Right, said Charles with an effort. I think I can use this grate here to leverage the door open from the hinges, but I'll need some strength behind it. Oh, thank you so much for that follow, Ellie. Thank you. Welcome to the community of kindness. And by the way, I am here writing fantasy almost every morning, depending on if my son needs help. My wife and my son need help, as I have a 9-month-old son. And basically, I'm a full-time streamer, Monday to Friday, and also Sunday I stream. And yeah, different times. Mornings are usually for book writing, so I'm writing my fantasy novel. This is my own original work, my own original fantasy novel. And then afternoons are usually for gaming. I end streams on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, a bit earlier because I have to take care of my son after nursery. But yeah, other than that, we game. We tend to play Diablo 4 when that, and we also have a community on Discord. You can check it out if you want here. And chat and the community, and there's people that are also writers, so we have a writers channel. We talk about writing stuff, we talk about everything, we talk about food, and what I'm trying to build here is a community of kindness. So it's a community where we try and change the world one kind act at a time, and create a safe space for everybody to just be themselves and be happy. So welcome everybody. You write a novel too? What's your novel about? Oh, it's okay. No worries. What is your novel about? Is the gate here to leverage the door open from the hinges? But I think on these... I don't know. Don't know that on this is necessary. Right, so they're about to take the door off the hinges. Should I tell them? Should the characters have a think about what they're gonna do, or just gonna plow through it? The logical side of me would say they have to kind of plan, but at the same time, they're in an unknown space. They don't know if there's any guards or anything out there, where the monsters are that are keeping them captive as well. And so... And there's the also, I've tied myself into a corner, kind of painted myself into a corner, or written myself into a corner with the fact that I've got basically there's Ethan. This is another prisoner that our group has found inside the cell, and they don't really trust him, so they can't really go and speak about things that you usually would. Like, for example, hey, the Ziza, the monsters are called Ziza, and the guard was a monster, because right now they're trying to pass off as normal people that have gotten some bad luck trying to go through the tunnels and got captured by the monsters and taken here. And therefore, that would raise suspicion. It's just that they don't trust Ethan just yet. For good reason, as we'll see in the chapter. So, I'm trying to see how much more I should do here before they actually get out. Because the cell is empty now, except for themselves. They have to get out. There's a long tunnel ahead with other cells, and then emptiness. Like it's like this is how much my current today my brain has seen the scene. So there you go. So that's the interest here. About loss, growing up, forgiveness, acceptance. Oh, that's beautiful. What is the synopsis? For example, the synopsis of my book is that the veil between this world and hell is wearing thin, and apocalypse is approaching, and the only thing standing between the end of the world and its salvation is the child. Right? So this is the synopsis, kind of fantasy and all that. So yeah, what's the synopsis of yours, if I may ask? That's very nice. Also, if you're interested, Ali, I don't know, depending on how available you are with writing and how busy you are, we are making a writers group where I have 2 more other writers, and what we do is we'll meet whenever we can all meet to discuss basically what we've done and analyze each other's work and give each other feedback the way that Brandon Sanderson describes giving feedback, not in a way that we're trying to tear each other down. So if you're interested, all right. So let's see, how much did we write so far this morning? No. Not much. I think I've been speaking mostly. Yeah, 746 words is nothing. Especially because it's already 17 past 1. Right, said Charles the Duffer. I think I can use this grate here to leverage the door open from the hinges. I don't know if this will be... I'll try and be as quiet as possible. But once the door is open, we'll have to find a way out swiftly. Stay close to me. If we're lucky enough, we'll find our belongings close by. Otherwise, we'll just have to make do. Oh, I could with other of my works, but no, my current book. I'm following an author's advice to see if it works. What's the advice, if I may ask? I'll send a synopsis once I'm back at my computer. Right now I'm meeting. Oh, enjoy. Bon appetit. I have to make do. Pop's heart started thumping. Just but he felt defenseless. No, defenseless not true because it's been trained not to. Just a familiar feeling of feel close by. How do I write this sentence? All sorts of something is just. He was excited. Did. Oh god, why is this so complicated? Basically, you write the whole book without reading it. Not spend time correcting yourself. Once you have finished the first track, yeah. Yeah, I do that too. Funny enough. The only thing that I do is I don't reread and rewrite unless it's for the last 2 pages. So I'm going down the way of I think it's kind of what Stephen King had described. This is just kind of my way, what works for me, right? So basically I reread only to see where I am if there's been a big pause from the last time I've written. So if tomorrow I write again, all I reread is like 2 pages, but it's not with the idea of rewriting. It's with the idea is, okay, so here I am, right? I need to kind of reread personally just to remember, like even as I'm going through, I just want to know that I'm like, it makes sense. Like I didn't write complete garbage, even though I think I'm writing complete garbage most of the time. But then I'll never rewrite. I'll never rewrite because the way that I'm doing it right now is the first draft is action scenes, dialogue, and just getting the story on paper. The second rewrite, I'll rewrite with the idea of now I know. Oops, sorry. Now I know where the story is, what the story is, and I'll rewrite to add embellishments, to add clarifications, to remove parts that are too worded or heavy-handed, and then that would be the second, like the rewrite part, so the second draft, and then the third draft perhaps is going to be a third draft if necessary. So yeah, in a way I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's really good actually. Because you're a baby writer, yeah. I am too. Like, I've never actually published myself. My dad has published, but I've never published. I've been a avid reader since I was very, very young. And I've written stuff before, but never a novel. Right? So a novel is a completely different thing. I've written poetry, I've written, you know, short stories that range from science fiction to fantasy to drama to stuff like that. Throughout my time, I've written pieces here and there, but I've never written a novel. And especially fantasy, when you're writing fantasy, like I've written the equivalent of right now 450 pages, which would be a normal novel. You know, like if you look at a normal fictional novel, 300 to 400 pages, that's the max of a novel. You know, that's finished. I am barely halfway through. So there's that as well. That's not easy. So I completely understand. And this is why I really like the idea of talking to other writers, because, you know, writing is very personal. It's an art to truly put down who you are into paper, right? It's a medium through which you can express yourself into paper, your creativity, your imagination. And that's why it's so beautiful. It's very personal, so what works for me might not work for you, what might not work for anybody else. And that's the beauty of it. But at the same time, it's nice because you hear feedback of what works and what doesn't work. And so long as the feedback is not there to tear other people down, it's not there to say, oh, you're a bad writer, or you should do this, you're bad. You know, that's not feedback, that's just being a dickhead. But you know, I find that it's really helpful to know how other people do it, because it gives us idea on how to change our tool, our skill set, our tool set, whatever you want to call it. But also it gives us prompts to things that we might change in our approach, or things to do that we haven't thought about doing. Hey Vanilla, I'm good. How was your weekend? How's the computer build going?
Closest I've done to is roleplay world building. Ah, that's fair enough. Yeah. So how are you enjoying the writing experience for the first time? Because for me, I'm so excited to write every day. There's days where I'm also terrified about it because I'm like, oh, I don't know where I'm going. Oh, it's gonna be shit. Oh, it's gonna be awful. But then there are like, I'm always just happy to write. I'll start starting something in his chest. Although he'd train with Helen. He'd been trained by Hannah to not have to use his body as a weapon. He sorely missed the feeling of steel in his hand. The feeling was even more so daunting because for the first time he had was completely powerless. Dad made the pit in his stomach that much deeper, heavier. Let's say deeper for now. Right. It's difficult. I advise everybody who is a writer in the making, watch this movie called Finding Forrester. It is a gorgeous little movie. I think it's a good idea. It's about writing more like fiction that's more poetry, more higher stuff, but it's really nice. I have an autistic burnout, so working is hard, but I try despite everything. Oh, I understand. I understand entirely. Small steps. Even if you manage to just do anything towards that one day, right? Whether it's just sitting down and putting 2 bullet points of what the next thing is going to be. So my character is going to do this, and then there's going to be that. That's it. That's progress. Any progress is progress. There are good days and there are bad days. I have days like today where because I'm talking and because the story is going slow, I've only managed to write 700 words. There are days that I'm going to manage to write only 500 words or less. There are days when I manage to write 1,500 or 1,700 words. You know, give yourself time and space. It's an artistic expression. You can't force it. You know, it's not how it works. And since we're not, thankfully, at least for me, I'm not, you know, on a schedule. I'm not like, oh, I have to get this done because it gets published tomorrow. I mean, I have an internal schedule, right, for the book. I want to get it finished by the end of the year. But, you know, I'm still not going to be too harsh about it because I'm trying to be kind to myself, which is the hardest kindness to be. Very well, should be done today with the BIOS set on the way. I only need to like put in the last few things and boot it up, download the updates, install Windows, do whatever. Yeah, you're gonna flash BIOS. I always have like a few sticks, always like lying around back in the day. And probably get rid of all bloatware and spyware on the base Windows 11 and fix the fan controller. Start downloading fun stuff like Steam, Battle, and so on. How goes the writing? Getting somewhere? Yep, it's getting somewhere, for sure. Slowly getting somewhere, but it's getting somewhere. I'm enjoying it. It's a wonderful experience, I can say that, for me. Really. Good to hear, good to hear. Did they get out of the cells? Yeah, almost. Literally almost. Alright. What is the plan? Asked Ethan. His tone still full of worry. You know, I don't, said Charles, but I reckon I might be able to once we get out. The guards seem very flat and it might work to our advantage. Once we're out, we'll need to see if we can grab some weapons and plan right find a way out. We can't get to the main tunnels. We'll be I should be able to guide us back safely. You think we're still underground? Asked Hawk. I do, said Charles. Stone work, masonry looks exactly the others in and around the sewers, tunnels of the marina. Even the mold, same. That makes me think that we aren't far from where abducted. Still, he paused for a second with let's say this makes me think that we weren't far from where we were abducted. Still, he paused for a second. And then continued worry voice. I am hoping that we aren't close to the nest of those things. Lots of barely made alive the first time. A heavy silence fell more dark and dull. Tension so thick. Good. Good. Cut with. What the hell? What? With a butter knife. they risked everything if they left, but they would surely die if they stayed. There was no other choice. Right then, said Charles, sighing heavily as he got into position next to the heavy wooden door. Everybody ready? Do. Yes, I know, I'm aware. I've not put any grammar. I don't care about grammar. I don't care about punctuation. I just need to get the story down right now. Everybody ready? Hawk and Elianda. Ready. Hawk and Elianda in unison. Then with us. I promise I'll keep you safe. Right, I get all out. Charles. Charles. His tone warm and friendly. I don't want to end up like... What was the name of the guy that we killed off? Yeah, names. I'm honestly, my freaking autism. Like, I keep forgetting the same names of the people I made. Was it Zach that we said, was it? Zach? Yes, it was. Yay, we remembered. Zach. Yeah. All right. Time to roll the dice. And with a loud noise of metal grinding against metal and wood splintering, the door came off hinges, and torch light flooded darkened cell once. Okay, that's a good Jesus Christ, how am I typing? That's a good way to leave the chapter off of. I'm wondering if I shouldn't cut the chapter here. Oh, I'm sorry, Ellie. I'm so sorry, Ellie. I am very sorry. You'll be able to watch it on our recap if you want. Happy. I'm gonna reread now what I've written, just for the stream, and just to ensure that it's not complete crap. So you don't have to worry. But I was saying earlier that if you're interested, for any writer, I always recommend the movie that I posted above, which is that's alright. Yep, we're always here. And even if the writing is mostly in the morning, the community is about everything. About kindness. The rules are there mainly before the game. Like, they're there for everybody to be respectful and kind, but at the same time, they're also mostly for the gaming aspect of our community, where I help others in other games for free, and I don't ask anything back. I tend to only ask people to help others and pay it forward or play it forward, so you don't have to worry. So welcome to the community. Vanilla is awesome. Alright, so I'm thinking I should leave it here and hop onto the other group. Right? Because now they've just gotten out of the cell. And this is, Vanilla, this is the kind of cliffhanger that I'm leaving you at, so you want to find out more into the next chapter. I think this is a good place to cut it, because they're just like, you know, the scene is, boom, we got the door open, light floods, cut, you know, done, scene done, right? So now I'm thinking that's a good place to leave it at. Today we've written how much? 1,165 words. That's more expectable, right? So I'm not trying to put you in a cliffhanger necessarily. It's not like, but it's in a good place where I think that's where if you were reading the book, you're like, oh wow, I want to know what happens next, which is what I was telling you earlier, right? So I'll reread what I've written today, right? And we'll see what happens. I'll try and get my voices on. Hopefully I won't make a mess out of this. But I'll reread just a little bit higher. Go here. It's impressive. Oh, thank you. It's just practice. I'd say the more you write, the easier it comes. I started writing this book when I was 20. I stopped after not even a few months, and I left it there for like 8, 9, almost 8 years. Started back up for a few months, and then stopped again. And then it wasn't until last year that I really picked up the book, rewrote the previous stuff. And since last year when I started streaming, because my idea was I'm going to be streaming full time and I want to finish this book, right? So what my two ideas for my full time, because I'm autistic, I'm on disability, spend my time, of course, raising my son and helping my wife, so spend time with them, but as a professional, get the community that I want to create around kindness and just amazing, beautiful people in the community, and finish writing this book. So this is what I try and achieve. And since then, I've been writing, not every day. Like, for example, for almost 2 weeks, I couldn't write because I was really sick. I didn't have, like, energy to even do anything. I was really, really sick. So I'm not hard on myself because of that. Yes, I'm sorry that I didn't spend time writing, but, you know. But every day that I write, it's just practice. And that's how I write so much. It's just practice, and also it's the system that I told you earlier. It's a very much matter of fact of I have a system in place that makes me that, so that even in the times that I'm struggling, and this is a chapter where I'm struggling to write, to finish, I am managing to still do something little by little. And as I said, there are days where I write 1,000 words, and then there are days where I write 500 words, and that both days are completely fine, and I don't care, you know? The idea is progress, no matter how we look into it. Anyway, let's say, replied Charles with an amused tone. Well, the man didn't seem to be all there, so I don't think we'll need to worry about him. Come back anytime soon. Also, There were no guards posted anywhere in the hallway. The whole place just seems to have been recently repossessed. He paused as he managed to get up off the ground and then tentatively moved his hands over the chains, looking for weakness in the links. This would be so much easier if I had a light, he said roughly. I think I can get out of mine, but I don't have much strength left in me. I've used up most of it when I was trying to get away from the monsters, said Oleanda in a dark tone. Hawk remembered the incredible flame work he'd seen the Draken use to stem the flow of the monsters and to keep them at bay. Paired with her lightning reflexes and extraordinary strength, they managed to keep the stem from overflooding them. Had it not been for her, he knew he wouldn't have been able to stop the bulk of the Ziza from killing their group and rushing to the surface to lay destruction to the city. He wondered if her power took a steep toll, such as his did, and wanted to ask and know more about it, but mindful that they weren't alone, he held his tongue. Ugh, said Charles. That's not a problem. I've just got the trick for this, and the guards didn't search for me proper. The sound of bone snapping quickly broke the silence that followed. Hawk heard the man groan in pain and the sounds of manacle being removed and dropped to the floor. Lucky thing, I've broken my thumb more times than I'd like to count, he said, his voice still pained. That sounded painful, said Hawk with a grimace. You get used to it. It's a nifty tool to have in your box when you need to get out of irons. I could teach it to you if you're ever interested. Honestly, the painful part is putting it back in the right place. And with that, there was another groaning of bone and ligaments in the dark, and a curse coming from Charles. See? He said, panting. Right as rain. Hawk didn't mention anything about the fact that it was pitch black, nor that it didn't sound pleasant. He was, however, very excited, despite the mind fog that was once more lying heavily over him, as his hope was rekindled. What are the common side effects of the Crimson Mire? Asked Hawk. Well, for one, the splitting headache, said Charles. It also muddles the mind, so it gets harder to think. Fairly common algae growth here in the region. I've managed to build up a tolerance to smaller doses over the years, but I reckon right about now, you're wishing you could lop off your head every time you use it. But that's where the migraine comes from, thought Hawk. Here, what happened here? At least I don't have to worry about a concussion. I heard there are also some other side effects to those that have abilities, said Elianda. If someone is more sensitive to the spiritual world, it's meant to stifle and take away the power, so long as the person keeps taking the mire. Is it permanent? Asked Hawk, worry rising in his voice. All of the effects disappear within a day or a few hours, depending on the potency of the mire used. With a sigh of relief, Hawk realized that he hadn't lost the use of the power, and much like his hunger, his body yearned to feel the strength and effects of it surging through him once more. From now, he could only focus on keeping his head from thumping, as the reinvigorated effects of the poison were now coursing through him. He cursed himself for having given in to his body's thirst. But what was done could be undone. It only took time. Right, no, said Charles, and once more he heard the clanking of irons hitting the floor. This time, no broken bones had been heard, and the manacles had been opened normally. They really should have checked me better, the man said with a hint of a smile in his voice. Charles then proceeded to unlock the rest of the people in the cell. He went about it tentatively in the dark, and used their voices to pinpoint the location of each of them. Once he came to Ethan, man shied away in terror. What are you doing? We can't get out of here. You don't know what they'll do to us. His rasping voice, full of fear, still quiet, trying not to attract the attention of the guards. Look, friend, if we don't get out of here, we'll all end up dead, or worse, sooner or later, Charles said in a calm tone. I understand you're afraid, but if you don't do this, you will die. So, will you come with us, or would you rather stay here and rot? A silence filled the room once more, and Hawk took the opportunity to edge closer to the door, passing his hands over the grooves and grain of the wood and metal that held it in place. He heard steps behind him and then felt Elianda approach. "Can you feel your power at all?" she asked in a whispered breath. Hawk shook his head, then realized it was pitch dark, and he said, "Can't tell at all. Every time I try, the headache just stabs at my temples," he whispered back. "Don't worry, I still have some strength. Our eyes can see better in the dark than those of your kin," he said. "Will you be able to get us out of here?" he asked her. She paused, and then also reached for the door, tentatively searching for a way out. "If I were to use the remainder of my magic, you'll have to carry me unconscious out of here. Our strength is different than yours. We don't have the Elder's light inside of us. It takes a lot of preparation for our bodies to be able to even achieve a sliver of what I used to do in the tunnels. If I'm not careful, it might even kill me." A few moments passed, and then more irons clanked in the cell as Ethan was set free. Charles approached them and said, "Let's see what we have to deal with." Hawk and Elianda let him through, and she whispered something to the man that Hawk couldn't hear. Then he heard Ethan approach and went towards him, worried that he might overhear something. But before he could reach the man, he heard a loud screeching noise, like metal being bent and turned around. "Right," sighed Charles with effort. "I think I can use this grate here to leverage the door, open from the hinges. I'll try and be as quiet as possible, but once the door is open, we'll have to find a way out swiftly. Stay close to me. If we're lucky enough, we'll find our belongings close by. Otherwise, we'll just have to make do." Hawk's heart started thumping in his chest. Although Hannah had trained him to use his body as a weapon, he sorely missed the feeling of steel in his hand. And it was even more so daunting because, for the first time, he was completely powerless, and that made the pit in his stomach that much deeper. "What is the plan?" asked Ethan, his tone still full of worry. Do you know where you are?" "I don't," said Charles, "but I reckon I might be able to once we get out and about. The guards seem very lax, and it might work to our advantage. Once we're out, we'll need to see if we can grab some weapons and then try and find a way out. If we can get to the main tunnels, I should be able to get us back safely." "You think you're still in the underground?" asked Hawk. I do," said Charles. "The stonework and masonry look exactly like the others in around the sewers and tunnels of the marina. Even the mold is the same. This makes me think that we're far from where we were abducted. Still," he paused for a second, and then continued with a worry in his voice, "I'm hoping that we aren't close to the nest of those things that got us. We barely made it out alive the first time." A heavy silence fell once more in the darkened cell. The tension was so thick it could be cut with a butter knife. They risked everything if they left, but they would surely die if they stayed. There was no other choice. "Right then," said Charles, sighing heavily as he got into position next to the heavy wooden door. "Everybody ready?" "Ready," said Hawk and Elianda in unison. "Ethan, you with us, Paul? I promise I'll keep you safe and try and get us all out alive," said Charles, his tone warm and friendly. "I don't want to end up like Zach. I need to get out of here. I'm ready." "All right, time to roll the dice." And with a loud noise of metal grinding against metal and one splintering, the door came off the hinges and torchlight flooded the darkened cell once more. All right, end of chapter 16. Yay! We got it. We've done it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is finished. Another chapter. Oof, that didn't sound too bad. Oh, wow, thank you for that follow. I cannot read those characters, but we are at 600 followers. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. You guys are incredible. Right, so that's chapter 16 done. I am pretty proud of it. It was a very struggle. It was a very hard struggle to get this chapter done. I have no idea what I'll do in the next chapter because the next few chapters are just kind of like a blank. So we'll see. I think either I take from here and I continue on to the next part of this group, or I take it back to the other group because they were trying to save somebody's life. I don't know if I can make it so that the two groups can meet back into the underground, because the group that managed to survive and get away will want to try and send a search party and try and find the people. The problem is gonna be, as a person with dyslexia, your reading is so helpful. I'm very happy. I'm very happy. This is what I do. I write as I read as I write, and then I reread what I wrote. So I'm happy that helps. We have a few people in our community as well that have dyslexia, and not only does it help me, but it also helps you guys. So I'm very happy to do that. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know yet where I'll take the story. I don't know if I'm going to do it so that the other group gets to a certain point and they're trying to get free and to the marina, like, sorry, to the underground, and try and meet them, and then by that time this other group managed to dislocate themselves from the situation. Because I don't want to bring them, like, there's going to be a humongous power struggle over the city of Alabaster. There's going to be a few powers in play at that, and I don't want the fight to happen yet, but I want the events of what happens and transpires whilst they're in this place where the monsters and these people are, to be the pulpit, the kind of like snowball effect that then leads to, in the next book especially, but throughout this book, for part of our heroes to be able to say, okay, let's get together, let's retake our city, let's do things. So it's going to be a tough choice. No worries, welcome back. But Ruo, does it read Ruo Jinjin? I'm sorry if I butchered that, but thank you so much again for that. And anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed that. I think that was a decent one. Yeah. It's been an interesting adventure so far, writing this book. I can tell you that. Yeah, and for me, the proudest realization was the last time I was writing, because my dad advised me on a phone call to try and put into actual factual printed word length, like page length, into printed, because, you know, a page here equals to almost 2 pages, almost about 2 pages. Because it's about 250 words per printed page. So my dad was like, yeah, you have 16 chapters, but you want to see how much of pages it would be into a book. So I was thinking, okay, cool. And when I went and I saw that I was almost basically at, 500 words. Sorry, 500 pages. I was so proud of it. Because that's the length of a freaking book. That's the length of more than the length of many books. So I'm very proud that I've managed to get to that and to keep going on it. Yeah. And this was not an easy chapter. Okay. That leaves that. So yeah, it's true. I overlooked the changes a lot based on the page size and character size. Yep, it is, yeah. But I've gone by 250. I think this is what I like to keep it as. I like the idea of, it's going to depend on the editor, it's going to depend on the publishing company, it's going to depend on a lot of things, but I've left it at 250. I think it's fair enough to leave it at 250, not 300. I don't like my, if I count that, my average is between 26 to, let's say, what is, I'd say on average I have like 7,000, let's say even 6,000 pages. 1,000 words, right? So chapter. So that's about like 24. I'd say between 24 and 30 pages per chapter, and that is a lot, right? That is not a small amount of page. Like that is a lot to read. I understand entirely. So, that's why I'm like, I'll see how it goes. But I wanted to get into a like printy idea of where we are. You have any idea how many pages you want? I think I'd say at least 800. But it's not what I want to get at. Is for this book, the story and the pacing so far, how much has been written so far, and how much I think there's still left to do. Or where I want to take the story, because, well, and I did it last time as well, right? So I took this for you guys. But this is the map that I made, right? So at the moment, like the whole story started in the island of Shines, right? So it started here, and our group made their way like through Alabaster, and one of the and this is Alabaster, it's humongous, right? So at the moment we're in Alabaster. So part of our group will have to make their way to Adelan, and then some of them, there's gonna be a prompt of some of them becoming very different, right? And something's going to happen in Adelan as well. That's very key. They're going to meet somebody very important to this story and to this world. And then from Adelan, they need to make their way to the monolith in the Howling Peaks. So up in Windfall, this is the regional Windfall. They need to make their way to the monolith. Right? So at the moment, we're still stuck here. Now, I'm not gonna go like, oh, first they go to Dagramon, then blah blah blah, what happens here, and then blah blah blah, what's happened. No, because that's gonna take me forever. Because at the moment I'm gonna have to split the kind of group in two, and there's gonna be people left in Alabaster as well. So there's gonna be a bit of skip. Like it's gonna be fairly quick to like. It's gonna be so this happened and that happened, and as they made their way to Adelan, they kept off the roads. You know, stuff like that. Like I'm not gonna go into detail as I'm going right now of step by step by step by step by action by action by action to get to Adelan. Then from Adelan to Windfall, and it's going to be very similar but not quite. And I'm going to use the points of traveling as a way for us to understand the characters, the dynamics, psychology, and who they are as people to get us more connected with them as well. You know, basically they're a band together, they're a party together, they're going through things, you know, together, and I think that's really important, the journey. But I don't want like it to be too focused. I think it's gonna slow down more from Adelan to the monolith, right? So it's gonna be like you're gonna pass, you're gonna get quickly to Adelan, and then from Adelan to the monolith is gonna be a bit slower but not quite. And I'm not gonna be like step-by-step location. I don't think you should use all cities and stuff in your map, leaving out on mentioning names. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to. It's gonna make it too, like some writers do that, but then I'd be looking at almost 2,000 pages for the first book. So I don't want to do that personally. That's not the kind of story that I'm writing. I want to make the journey meaningful. When I hit certain points, as I said, Adelan is going to be a turning point. But getting to Adelan is not going to be too harsh. It's more going to be like the getting out of Alabaster. There's a big moment in getting out of Alabaster for them. They have to figure out how to get out of the place. So it's not going to be as easy as, you know, walking through the front gate, because they're wanted people. 3 of them in their group are known wanted people, right? So there's that, and they're gonna have to get out of Alabaster because of that. So that's gonna be like the slowdown is gonna be Alabaster getting out, and at the moment we're still here. Then it's gonna be quickly-ish getting to Adelan. Adelan is gonna be a slowdown moment where a lot of stuff develops, and getting out of Adelan's a lot of stuff develops and slows down, and then I'd say around this part in Windfall is going to pick up again until we get to the monolith. Meantime, stuff is going to develop around here. Alabaster, Dagrima, Brugale, like there's some things like in this general region that kind of prompts things. I still don't know how I'm gonna deal with the Draken yet. It's a bit up in the air. But I think I'm gonna leave that for another book. I think at the moment, because the Draken are all the way in the Cinder Seas, like very far away with the Slumbering Giant. Like this is not really how close it is, as much further, but kind of an idea. So yeah, I'm thinking that's how it's going to be. Yeah, so that's the plan for the first book. We got a bit of a ways to go. Therefore, going back to the what prompted our this lengthy answer is, I know where I want to take the book. I think I'm likely going to be around 800 to 900 factual printed pages, maximum 1,000 if the book warrants it. I am fully aware that when I'm going to go back, there's going to be a lot of cutting, but a lot of embellishments as well, which are going to add to the book. But I don't want to change the flow of action. The idea when I'm going to be rewriting is, of course, with hindsight, do I need to keep certain parts in here? Certain people even, some events maybe might be cut out, some might not. And then, you know, like for example, embellishments on how I describe things, because right now it's just very, you know, black and white kind of things. I don't use a lot of metaphors, which I would like to use a bit more, to set the mind and the writer and the reader into the scene, right? To pull you into the scene. As the metaphors, as the similes, as the smell of the mold coming off of, you know, the wafts of, like, this kind of stuff tends to pull the reader in more and more and more. So I need to use that better, not necessarily to add like pages and pages for it, but use it better to at the right time if necessary. And that's going to add more pages as well. So with that in mind, I'm thinking like maximum 1,000 pages is what I want to get. And I have the ending already of, I already have the ending. The last chapter, I know what's going to happen, and even the last scene, what's going to happen of this book. And on top of that, I already have the ending for the series. I even have, like, I have such cool things planned for this series. It's so nice. I'm gonna have to, like, I'm thinking maybe I will send, for some reason, like, because I don't know if I want to spoil it, because I'd rather keep it, but at the same time, I don't know if this book is ever gonna get published. But yeah, I wanna send some of our characters through a very, very treacherous journey. Let's just leave it at that. Very scary, treacherous journey. And it's going to be a whole book about it, basically. And it's been foreshadowed in this book. It's kind of been foreshadowed. Because they're going to have to rescue somebody. And they're going to go into enemy territory for that. And then there's going to be incredible stuff. And then it's going to be all... The series supposedly finishes with a very big fight. But there's a lot of big momentous steps in between. And that's why I'm thinking there's going to be quite several books. At least, I'd say... At least 3 for sure. But I'm thinking like more like 4, 5, 6, 7 books. If I manage to get everything that I wanted to get down into paper. Funny enough, on top of that, I also have another series that I think is going to be even better than this one. That's similar urban meets fantasy. Going to be like... If I'd have to describe it as like Dresden Files meets The Witcher meets like SAS, ex-SAS, kick-ass guy like Reacher, right? So it's kind of like something like that in the modern world. And yeah, I'm really excited for that one. I already have a lot of scenes of that, and I've been so fucking good at not doing what a lot of writers do, which is get sidetracked on one of those stories and then leave like the book behind and then come back after 5 months as like, oh, what the fuck, I don't remember what I was. So I've been really good at not doing that, and I've been trying to. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked here. I'm just talking about writing. I could talk about writing all day. Hope you guys are enjoying it. But yeah, I'm excited for that story as well. And funny enough, I think that one could do even better than this book. I have a feeling. I don't know why. I think that one could do better than this one. I think epic fantasy is not for everybody, you know? So there's definitely somebody who would like to read this story, but it's not necessarily something that would be for everybody because it's not at the level of where Harry Potter is. You know, that's simple enough that anyone can get into it. I think the way that I write it is at the moment simple enough for anybody to get into it, but it doesn't mean that you get attached to it because it doesn't feel as magical, for example, as Harry Potter, and I think very little will feel as magical. I think what Miss Rowling did was incredible. No matter what you think about her personal life and her choices and ideas, on as a writer by itself, the imagination that lady's had is incredible, and she managed to encapsulate like lightning in a bottle with the not only the whimsical but the magical, and give it in such a way that anybody at any age could fall in love with it without feeling too childish or too adult or stuff like that. Your story to me feels like a Dungeons and Dragons run, except none is playing it, and you're like experiencing sort of. Really? I wouldn't know because I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, but this is just fantasy. I think, you know, in the end, Dungeons and Dragons is just fantasy put into roleplay for the players. Yeah, for the players. So, and this is just what fantasy is. Is you take some characters. Hopefully, they're interesting enough, the characters, and I think I'm lacking on that. Still, and that's one thing that I want to go back, and when I'm rewriting the second draft, I want to give a bit more clear definition and reason why the reader could get attached to some of the characters and find that certain things. I've kind of done that now, but I think I need to put a bit more at the beginning. Not necessarily the first few chapters, but I mean up until now. It's just I don't think I let it breathe enough. Like, there's also that, like, I don't let it breathe because this happens and that happens and then this happens and, like, you know, and it's always, it's not just this and then that and then that. It's this happens, but then that happens and then this happens, but then there's like, it's always a twist and turn. And I believe there are some moments where I could use a downtime to explain the characters a bit more. Even just here, for example, I think there's definite possibility to show their hearts, and then you take these characters and you put them in a setting, in a story, and you see what happens. This is very much the nature of writing the way that I write, and the way, for example, really good writers write, like Stephen King. This is what Stephen King does. He was explaining, like, I don't remember what was it was Pet Cemetery, I think it was saying that, you know, he had a completely different idea when he approached the characters and the story at the beginning, and by the end, the story had dictated for him a completely different thing, and it had taken in a completely different way than what he wanted. And so long as you're the kind of writer like myself who is dictated by the muse or by the story itself, so I just sit down and see what happens. So it's called Stephen King calls them a pantser, you know, because we take it by the seat of their pants and just, you know, sees what happens. Then that's gonna feel more like Dungeons and Dragons, and you're kind of experiencing it because that's what it is. It's just put characters in a setting and see what happens. And a lot of writers like to do that, you know, and that's what's fun for them. It's funny because it's just our brains playing the movie. We come up with some ideas and then just put them in the machine, and then like, hey, let's see what happens. And then sometimes some really cool, funky stuff happens. Sometimes some really sad and heartbreaking stuff happens. And so long as you're open for it, let it take you where it may. That's the beauty, I think, about storytelling and writing, especially. So, Yeah. Anyway, cool. On that note, I've garnered quite a bit of delay on what I was planning to do. So right now, I'm gonna go and make myself some food. I'm gonna put some music. So I'm gonna stop the atmosphere music. I'm gonna put some music. Put liquid drum and bass. Set.
I'm stone cold, and your eyes so wet, and you're so upset.
Anyway, I hope you guys have been enjoying the story. You know, and even if you caught it at the last second, I hope you still managed to appreciate some of it. And you know, if you did, I'm very happy. If you didn't like something, I'm always happy for feedback. Always. Never gonna be a moment when I'm not. So. Right. Right, so fuck a suck. What I'll have to do is I'll have to stop my stream here.